What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Aiden Productions podcast. This is episode number 20. Today's guest is one of the most trusted voices in Celtics coverage, known for his thoughtful analysis, clear breakdowns, and reliable insider access. He covers the team across articles, on-air segments, and also hosts a podcast where he shares post-game reactions, interviews, and insights. He's even an Emmy Award winner, which shows just how respected he is in the industry. In this episode, we talk about how we think the Celtics are going to do this season. Since this episode was recorded in the preseason, we get into our early expectations for the team, when we think Jayson Tatum is coming back, who we think could be all-stars this year. We also dive into his career, how he got started, and what his journey has looked like up to now. Today's guest, Chris Forsberg. What's your overall take on the Celtics this year coming into the season? This is only two preseason games in, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting to me. I think there's been people tend to focus on all the players they lost, and undeniably, when you lose Luke Cornett and Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, it makes things a little bit more difficult. I keep telling people it's obvious the margin for error is less, and like there'll probably be more rough patches than we're used to during the course of the year. But I think people forget like how good Jalen and Derek and Peyton are, and really excited to see what they can do in bigger roles and what they can do to really kind of go to the next level on their own game. And so I think with that, with Joe, like there's enough pieces here to for this thing to keep rolling. And I think they'll be better than people think. Now, if Jalen pulls a hamstring or like Derek misses some time, it gets a little bit more daunting. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to just see it, you know. But like we can reevaluate in December and know if everybody was right that they're going to be a little bit more struggling. But I got a pretty good feeling about how they'll look out of the gates.
Yeah. Do you think Payton will be a starter this year?
I've just made that been my assumption the whole time. I think he's earned it with the way
Mm-hmm.
that he's played. I understand, like, you got to see how everybody fits together best. I think, like you said, we're recording this after two preseason games. I'll be interested tonight,
Yeah.
see if how they mix and match personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Derek is intriguing to me. We saw how good it looked at times last year, that Portland game where they went for 40
Yeah.
40. So that would be the way I would lean early on. I think
Yeah.
Anthony Simons could be really good off the bench for you,
Yeah.
and I'm hopeful that we'll see that. But ultimately, it comes down to who makes each other better. We know Peyton can thrive in that six-man role, and so if Joe decided to be flexible with the lineup, if he decided to pair other guys, I think we would understand it if it works. But I think Peyton's excited. If nothing else, like the minutes are going to go up regardless,
Yeah.
and he's always done more with every opportunity that he's gotten, and I can't wait to see it.
I think Nemius Kato.
I think he's going to be getting a lot more minutes this year. But
Yeah, it's right. Look, it's natural that people sit there and say like, what's going to happen with the center position?
yeah.
And we go back to it. No Luke, no KP, no Al. Like somebody's got to kind of elevate and be better in that spot. But Luke, it was the same way with Luke when the Celtics first kind of moved Luke into that backup big role. People weren't thinking he's going to be a $10 million a year kind of guy. And he went out and just kind of showed what he could do. And it all comes down to what you make of the opportunity. Now, Nimi didn't have a great preseason debut. He's got to be better. He's got to limit the turnovers. He's got to like fight on the glass. But he was really good at Eurobasket, and I'm pretty confident that's a better reflection of what we'll see this season than necessarily what we've seen to this point. But I've been encouraged by Garza, one of the
Yeah.
guys they added this off season. I think Boucher can, whether it's as a small ball five or as in a double big lineup, can really help them. And they just always seem to figure it out. Go back it always helps to have an Al Horford there to mask a lot of the
Yeah.
deficiencies, but they've always sort of figured out how to make this thing look good.
Yeah. I think Hugo's going to take a big role this year. Just how he's been playing in the preseason. I think he's going to do something good this year. But
Ugo, so I'm fascinated. It's interesting to me that Joe one hasn't really leaned heavy on rookies.
yeah.
Even Baylor Shireman had to wait last year and
Yeah.
towards the end of the season to get his break. even Jordan Walsh, just, there's a level of consistency that is demanded. Now that's been because the rosters have been very good, and we'll see if there's a little bit more flexibility this year. Uh, the way Ugo has sort of just looked really comfortable that first preseason game. Looked like he can do some stuff defensively. We'll all overreact to that in the moment, and then game
Yeah,
two shows like there's a level of consistency you need to bring and to
yeah.
earn everybody's trust. But yeah, I think he's got a great opportunity in front of him. Whereas some years those guys come in and you're like, it's going to be tough for rookies. I wonder if there's more opportunity this year and if he can carve out a little bit of a role. And I hope we see a little bit of him and Simons together. And like, what would that look like in the backcourt? Can he mask some of Simons's deficiencies? But yeah, Ugo is when he's blocking shots and throwing lobs and doing all that. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and hopefully Joe plays him like his minutes are earned. But do you think Jaylen Brown will be like the leader this year, or do you think it will be more of like a kind of Derek White, Payton, like kind of following because they're all like veterans now. Like we think of them of like rookies or like
Yeah.
Jalen's been there, but they've been in the league for a while now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was telling Peyton over the summer when we were at the all of us were at that event in
Yeah.
Stoughton. I was like, it's kind of crazy that you're maybe the fourth longest tenured Celtic behind Jason,
Yeah.
Jayson, and there's not a lot of guys. Maybe he's third. I'd have to go back and check the math, but it's kind of crazy that he's really like a veteran now, and only year 4 or 5 here, but like it's a real opportunity for him to take on a leadership role. And same thing with Derek. Year 9 in the league. He's kind of grown and evolved, and if you're going to be the all-star, you got to be a little bit more of a leader too, just naturally. But I do think a lot of it will fall on Jaylen, and we saw this summer whether it was taking some of the younger guys to Foxborough for a Patriots game or organizing events. It was interesting to hear a lot of those guys talk in the preseason about how important it is that Jalen's sort of setting the tone and how much his leadership has been apparent. It's again, it's we when we think about no Jason, we default to how do you make up for the points and the assists and the rebounds and all that. Undeniably, they got to do that too. But I think Jalen is also excited to be sort of like, okay, this is his team
Yeah.
until Tatum gets back, and there's a real chance for him to show what he can do as a leader and as a guy that could be a centerpiece of your franchise.
Yeah, and I mean Tatum's like basically already dunking in practice and stuff, so I don't know how he's recovering this fast, but you think it's around March, after March?
Yeah, it's funny. We did something over the summer, just asking a bunch of our people like when do we think he would come back, and I said March in part because you knowing how quickly they got him into surgery, knowing like how relentlessly he had attacked the rehab, I thought there was a good chance for him to be back before the end of the season. And then like a couple days after that, they released the video of him already on the court. And then a couple days after that, it's him dunking. And yeah, it's impressive how much he's done in just 5 months. So that's why when I sit here and say, well, all right, if we're talking about February and March, we're talking about 4 more months here.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for me to believe that he wouldn't be back playing basketball. And so I went with early March when I first kind of did the prediction, and that's his birthday is right around there, March 3rd.
Yeah.
I could see him being kind of circling some games around then. Now I sit there and think if the opportunity were to line up and if he was feeling good enough that maybe it would be even sooner. But again, some of that could be dictated by how they're playing. Some of it could be dictated by just does he continue to have just an incredible rehab, and they're gonna tread cautiously with this thing. But I just can't shake this feeling that we're gonna see him sooner than later.
Yeah, I feel like he's gonna want to play, but they're gonna tell him like, no, not yet,
Mm.
no, not yet. And they're gonna keep holding him off. But I feel like he just wants to play right now.
Yeah, and that's hard to do when guys want to play. It's if in a vacuum you love that he wants to be out there. Like I always say, you'd rather be trying to keep guys off the court than to beg them to be out there and play through injury. But this is like there's a history, obviously, and you can look at Clay and even how long Durant took to come back. Like guys tread cautiously here because it's hard to get your body back
Yeah.
right and to prevent compensating and having another like something else get injured. I think they will, like you said, they'll approach it the right way, and they will be the ones pushing back on his desire to play. Um, But I don't know. There's only so many times you can tell Jayson Tatum no.
Yeah, I know. So if he does come back and the Celtics go on a finals run, what do you think will
Ooh.
have to click for them to get to there?
So, I mean, it's just so ambitious to me to think that like Tatum can come back and be playing at that high of a level right
Yeah,
away. But, let's say it's a perfect storm. And, for me it more comes down to how did the some of these younger guys develop? How did you put together a front court? Did you have to make a move to add a more surefire veteran, at the center spot? Is Simons a part of this long term?
yeah,
There's a lot of question marks to get there, but I mean, the bottom line would be like Jalen had an all NBA season. Peyton probably had another like great year, and I don't know what that looks like, but Derek's probably an all-star, and you're getting real good contributions from that younger group that had been a question mark coming into the year. And then if you're lucky enough to add Tatum midstream, it's
yeah,
getting back to some of what you know. And again, it doesn't look the same, and it's harder when you don't have a Drew and a KP, but yeah, they've proven that no matter the pieces that have been around Jason and Jalen, they've thrived, and
yeah,
I suspect it would just mean you really caught lightning in a bottle with everybody else.
yeah. And do you think Payton will be an all-star this year?
I can't rule it out.
Yeah,
It's funny. I always tell people if you think the Celtics are going to be better than what the Vegas and the prognosticators think, then one of Derek or Peyton is going to be an all-star.
yeah.
And because
Uh-huh.
Jalen's probably going to be in there. His stats are going to be glitzy and stuff like that, and probably will be deserved. But someone else is going to have a big year if things go right. And so I think it's more likely to be Derek, but like
Yeah,
can you convince me that after watching like the Isaiah Thomas glow up of 10 years ago, like that it wouldn't be Peyton Pritchard? Like I just can't get there. Like I think he's gonna put up good numbers. I think he's gonna have a lot of opportunity. And look, even if he just muscles his way into that conversation, if even if we're sitting here in January and talking about whether he should be in that conversation, that's a really good thing for everybody.
Yeah. And who do you think like is gonna be the most under the radar player that's like just gonna shine this year?
So, I mean, it'll feel like I'm just I'm stooping because like the last 2 weeks of the last two games
Yeah,
of the preseason, but I really liked when they signed Minot, Josh Minot from Minnesota. Like it just felt he has a big frame, like he can do things that they want to do. He cuts, he hits the glass hard. I feel like he's probably the one guy like Garza's going to get a lot of opportunity too, and
yeah,
maybe that makes more like if he just goes out there and is just a double type guy with just hustle and grit and setting screens and getting fouls and all that.
yeah,
Maybe his has a little steadier of a stat line, but I think Minot is like one of the keys to where this thing goes. And just
yeah.
I think if he's got to play hard, I think he's going to be fun. He got the cool lawnmower nickname. Like, there's a lot of little things that could line up for him to make him a little bit of a fan favorite out of the gates.
Yeah. And what do you think is gonna be the like their biggest like key to making like a like success this season?
Yeah, I go back to it. I think health will be
Yeah,
big. And just, if you were to lose one of your key guys for a longer stretch, it gets pretty daunting. It's asking a lot of the guys that haven't played as much. And maybe they're ready for that. And maybe those guys surprise us. Maybe that's part of this story of the season. But I just think they got to figure it out defensively.
yeah.
And how do you get away without Al and without those guys on the back line? And if they do that, like then the offense will take care of itself. Like between Jalen and Derek and Peyton and Simons, like there's a plenty of points to go around. It's just
Mhm.
can you dig in and get stops and find a way to be kind of like what the calling card has been through the years. And if they do that, they'll be good and they'll be in the hunt for, I keep saying, like somewhere in that 4 to 6 range in the East, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But yeah, you gotta show it to me on defense
Yeah.
and show me that they can get to that level.
And do you think Joe's gonna be like wanting to trade this season? Or do you think he's just gonna try to stick with this team like the whole season?
Yeah, so I mean, so from Joe's perspective, I think he's invigorated to coach this team,
Yeah.
and it's because like we all sit here and when fair or not, we'll go, well, he had a ton of talent when he took over that. any coach could have won a title,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it doesn't feel fair to Joe. Like the coach is important in defining
Yeah.
roles and getting guys all on the same page. But coming up through the ranks for the Celtics, he was very much involved with some of the end of the bench guys and some of the deep rotation guys. And I wonder if I think he's invigorated to go back and coach them up and try
Yeah.
to show that a coach can have an impact. I almost feel bad always invoking this because it's not fair to like the current coach, but like
Yeah.
the one of the best things about Brad Stevens was he could take teams that were perceived to be weak or like somewhere not as good as like a great team and find a way to make them great. And when a coach can do that, when the coach can put players in the right spots, when he can pick the right lineups, when he can pick the right play style, and I think between Brad and Joe,
Yeah.
they'll be able to figure this thing out and go and from Brad's perspective, it will be fascinating, right? Like does he make a move during the season to add at a spot? Do we? It's easy to say right now that the center is the spot that they need, but needs change all the time, and they don't have a ton of assets, but there will be the opportunity to make moves. And, hovering above all that, there's all the salary cap nonsense that no one wants to talk about. But it's part of putting this puzzle
Yeah.
together.
And all right, so that's how we're gonna talk about for the Celtics part. Now let's just talk more about you.
All
Um,
right.
so how did you get into like sports media? Like how did you
Yeah.
start?
So it was funny. I was on the golf course with someone the other day, and their son is doing some journalism and communication stuff. And so when I was 18 and filling out college applications, I had really no clue what I wanted to do with my future. My athletic ability had maxed out probably 3 or 4 years before that. I was not a very good basketball player. I was not a very good golfer, but I was excited to be out there, and I guess I tried my best, even though I probably sucked at both. And I really hadn't thought a lot about what I wanted to do with college and like my future. But so I was putting like communications as my major, and I didn't even know what that meant. And then when I was looking at Northeastern, and they kind of made you drill down a little bit and decide like and I saw journalism as one of the possible options for a major under
Mhm.
communications. And I was like, wow, I'm like watching sports or like writing, reading the paper about them. Thought it might be interesting, and in a way, it was a little bit of dumb luck, and because I then just gets kind of thrown into it.
Yeah.
And the big spot along the way was my first after you're at Northeastern, you do the co-op program, so you go to school for 6 months and you work for 6 months. And so after the summer or essentially the spring after your freshman year, you meet with an advisor and they kind of tell you like this would be a good company to go work for if you're interested in
Yeah.
XYZ. And I told this lady Kellyanne Murphy, I said, I'm just going to go home. I live out in Central Mass. I'm just going to work for the local paper and write stories,
Yeah.
whatever they need. Like I don't know why I felt even confident that that would be a thing I could do. But she was like, "Well, why don't you go interview for the Boston Globe Sports Department? They do. They're part of they're essentially Northeastern would help funnel people to them for co-ops." And help give them intern bodies over there. And I was like, I don't know. I'd written for the student newspaper a little bit, but I don't even think I did any sports at that point. And so I went to get for an interview, and one of the nice guys over there was kind enough to let me ramble for a little bit. And I swear, I tell people all the time, I think because I was a freshman and he knew he wouldn't have to hire again for 4 years, he maybe gave me the benefit of the doubt and just rolled the dice, which I am forever grateful for. And I was just able to sort of maximize that experience. And I felt like coming out of college, it put me a little bit ahead of maybe the rest of the field. And again, just a lot of good steps along the way
Yeah.
to try to maximize what I was given. And I'm thankful for that experience because I would never have gotten sort of on the path to
Yeah.
where I am now.
So you went for journalism and then you started just doing like more TV stuff and then you went to NBC Sports Boston?
So essentially, the path was I covered a lot of high school sports, but got some
Okay.
pro stuff at the Globe as an intern, and then when I graduated, they sort of kick you out the door and say work your way back. And so I went and covered high school sports for a paper in Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and
Okay.
it was a lot of work and a lot of grind, and not a lot of people were reading that stuff, but it was a great community, and it was super exciting to just be like doing it and. It was a great experience just to kind of get back out there. And then I think in 2006, so I graduated from Northeastern in '03. I went back to the Globe as a high school sports writer. In fact, like just got kind of lucky again where they just created this position that as online was starting to take off, and still had no idea like I would ever kind of do pro stuff. There was opportunity on off days to trade in covering high school sports and go down to Foxborough or go to a Bruins game or a Celtics game or wherever they needed help. And blogs were just kind of becoming a thing at that point. So I was able to just get sort of reps that I wouldn't have got otherwise. And yeah, it was just I still at that point I never thought I would end up on TV. ESPN Boston, which was like ESPN started all these little city sites,
Yeah.
started in 2009. And so after 3 years of like doing high schools and just kind of helping out on that, there was an opportunity. And even then, I didn't know what it was going to be. But go back to it where you're just like right place, right time. They needed a Celtics writer. They didn't have anyone in place when the 2009-10 season tipped off, and they sent me to Cleveland. They pulled me out of my rookie orientation in Bristol, Connecticut, and sent me up to Cleveland for it was Shaq and LeBron on the Cavs. The Celtics were like the end of the Big Three era,
Mm.
and I was like, wow, this is what I do, and they just never told me to stop going. And yeah, that did 10 years there, and then went over to NBC Sports Boston in 2019.
Mhm.
And same deal. It's just I would watch the coverage all the time from afar and was a huge Mike and Tommy fan, and feel very fortunate to be part of this now and to be part of the legacy of covering this team.
Yeah. And then so what's a day in the life like preparing
Mm.
for like a game day?
So game day, it's interesting. It can be a little bit variable. Again, I live out middle of nowhere, so some days, the Celtics will have shoot around, so everyone will go to the practice facility in the morning. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's an opportunity to go in early and talk to guys. It all depends on like what you need for stories or what we need for interviews,
Yeah.
and but a normal game day at the Garden, especially in the playoffs when we our sister station NBC 10 would typically, especially in the postseason, would have us be part of their broadcast. So I would get to the Garden at like 3:30, and we would do TV at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Then our show started 6.
Yeah.
We hour-long pregame in the postseason. The game itself is usually like one of the quieter spots. Some when we have halftime programming and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
it is nice to actually get to sit back and kind of watch the game.
Mhm.
And then, post game, it's either in the locker room talking to players or back on our shows. A night like this, I'm in the studio for our preseason coverage,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit more relax where I can watch the game and then just go on and pretend and yell and scream about what looked good and what bad. And but yeah, it's all built around that. And there's practices during the week, and there's always something going on. We're always taping something. We have off day shows. But it's great. Like again, sometimes people say like, is it you definitely work late at night. You definitely work a lot of hours, but at the end of the day, when I get mad, I say it's basketball, and there's a lot more arduous things I could be doing. My
Yeah.
first job was scooping ice cream, and I was like, it's a lot easier just watching basketball and having fun with it than doing that.
Yeah. So you're just like in the studio. So during the preseason, you're in the studio, and then during regular season, you're at the Garden?
So
Or
it's a little bit of a split.
oh, okay.
Essentially, when the nights that we do our broadcast from the Garden, we're over there. I used to be at the Garden for every single home game, and I would be on the road a lot. And just part of the way it is now, doing a lot more studio stuff. It's less time at games than in the past. We have this beautiful studio that is not the worst to be stuck in. I do miss sometimes the Garden vibes, and I'm more appreciative of it when I'm over there for games, especially in the postseason when it's a different world.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's a nice little balance between being in the studio where it feels like there's no one around us, and then you go to the garden and there's 20,000 people on top of you.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add where people can find you?
No, no, no. I always say if the I'm very appreciative of anyone who goes on NBC Sports Boston, anyone who listens to the
Yeah.
podcast. It's cool to see. I love when young journalists like you are trying to figure out this how to make this go. And I'm telling you, like the one message I always tell people is that hard work pays off,
Mhm.
and it doesn't go unnoticed. It can sometimes feel like it does.
Yeah.
But if you put in the effort, someone will notice. And if you're lucky enough, like me, to catch a break along the way, you can go to some pretty special places. And I'm just incredibly grateful for get the opportunity that I've been given.